Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this afternoon's severe weather update. So, a pretty substantial tornado threat is coming to Florida this evening and tonight. And looking at the Storm Prediction Center's convective outlook, there's a marginal risk of severe weather across portions of Nebraska, South Dakota, Iowa, far northern Missouri, and Illinois as well. But the main focus is going to be across Florida, where we have a slight risk of severe weather across central and northern Florida in the yellow, with a marginal risk in the dark green surrounding that, including Orlando, Tampa, and Melbourne in the slight risk. So looking at the tornado threat, we have a 5% chance of tornadoes touching down within 25 miles of a location in portions of central and northern Florida, and this includes Tampa, Orlando, and Melbourne. So if you live in these areas, make sure you're really paying attention to the weather this evening and overnight, as atmospheric ingredients are going to be conducive for several tornadoes this evening and overnight in this area, with a 2% chance of tornadoes touching down within 25 miles of a location in areas like Tallahassee, Jacksonville, down towards Fort Myers and Naples. There's also going to be a damaging wind threat, 15% chance of damaging straight line winds of 58 miles per hour or stronger within 25 miles of a location across central and northern Florida in the yellow, 5% damaging wind risk in the brown this evening, also a 5% wind risk across portions of central and eastern Nebraska. And looking at the large hail threat, thankfully no hail threat in Florida, but we do have a 5% chance of quarter-size hail or larger within 25 miles of a location across portions of the northern plains. So let's take a look at the 20Z run of the HRRR model to time out the storms across Florida and the south. So as we go into this evening, around 5 o'clock Eastern Time, 4 o'clock Central Time, moderate to heavy rain is going to be ongoing across Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, with heavy rain showers moving into southern and central Florida. And the tornado threat will probably begin around 6 o'clock this evening as we start to see some supercells developing across central Florida with these kidney bean shaped storms. And then the tornado threat's really going to ramp up as we go into around 8 to 9 o'clock. We see several supercells developing to the west of the Florida Peninsula with heavy rain across Georgia. And then as we go into around 11 p.m. Eastern Time, this is not what we want to see. Potentially a nocturnal tornado outbreak across portions of central and northern Florida, with potentially supercells around Tampa and supercells up towards the Big Bend area of Florida, even maybe as far west as Panama City Beach. So this is going to be a kind of a concerning threat as we go into 1 o'clock a.m., seeing supercells moving into north central Florida with a big mass of rain across Georgia and South Carolina. And supercells continue into 4 or 5 a.m., even 6 and 7 a.m., before we start to still see supercells training across central and northern Florida into tomorrow morning. So I'm going to be showing you the significant tornado parameter, as I am very worried about a potential tornado outbreak across central and northern Florida tonight. This is what the tornado parameter, we're going to start around 2 a.m. Eastern Time. We're going to start to see significant tornado parameters of between 3 and 6 in the Tampa area, in areas of Hillsborough and Pasco County. Not what we want to see in populated areas. And then as we go into 3, 4 a.m. Eastern Time, this is very concerning. Looking at the significant tornado parameter, we're seeing areas of 5 to 6, and then we're seeing some pockets as high as 12 and 14, indicating an extremely favorable environment for tornadoes across central and northern Florida. So make sure you have your NOAA Weather Radios set up for tonight if you live across central and northern Florida, as the atmosphere looks primed for several tornadoes. The significant tornado parameters remain high all the way through tomorrow morning into 7 and 8 a.m. before slowly diminishing through the day tomorrow. As if tornadoes wasn't enough, lots of heavy rain is going to be falling across Florida and Alabama into Georgia and South Carolina, we could be seeing as much as a widespread 2 to 4 inches of rain across northern Florida, central southern Georgia, eastern Alabama, south central South Carolina, with the narrow band setting up across northern Florida between about 4 and 8 inches. So flash flooding is also going to be a problem. Looking at the HRRR model, the 20Z run, and then looking at the 18Z run of the NAM-NEST model, showing a similar situation with about 2 to 4 inches across central northern Florida, central eastern Alabama, much of Georgia, much of South Carolina, and pockets of 4 to 8 inches in the Florida Panhandle, central and southern Georgia as well. And looking at the flooding threat, the Weather Prediction Center only has a marginal risk across portions of western and northern Florida, as well as portions of Nebraska, Iowa, Illinois, and Indiana. However, I personally think that the flood threat is going to be a little bit more significant than what the Weather Prediction Center is forecasting. And we also have a marginal risk into tomorrow across portions of Florida as well, slight risk across portions of the northern plains. So, if you live across central and northern Florida, especially in areas like Tampa, Orlando, towards Jacksonville and Melbourne, make sure you're monitoring the weather very closely this evening and overnight, as I do think there are going to be several tornadoes across areas like Tampa, Orlando, northward into north central Florida. So make sure you're ready for that. Thanks for watching this afternoon's severe weather update. Please stay safe and have a wonderful afternoon, my friends.